Hey guys, we're going to talk about how to cut hair extensions into pieces. There are so many options you can do with hair extensions, and I'm going to say that these eye tips would be the least likely to be cut. There's no way to customize the sizes. You pretty much have to use them the size you get. So I'm going to kind of place them to the side, but we've got eye tips, weft, tape-ins, individual strands. Let's go into this. So I try so hard not to do it wrong. I'm kind of excited to do it wrong here a little bit so I can show you what not to do. So I went and found some leftover hair in the salon in our warehouse to play around with. And I've got a couple of pieces here that are cut in half already. Let's just take individual keratin bonds to start with, or plastic bonds, or whatever hard plastic, hard surface you're using to heat up and melt into a person's head. You've got that size of a section, and one of the favorite things of mine to do with these is to make them smaller. I've already made a couple of these smaller here by cutting it in half, but you can cut it into thirds also. So when you go to cut this in half, what I recommend is not cutting the rest of this hair. So many people go in there to cut, and they'll go to cut this in half like this, and the hair's all to one side or the other, and they cut all the hair off the other side. So first, many times these keratin bonds are too long, so we'll cut a little bit off of the top to make it shorter, and it's plenty enough to still hold hair in the client's hair. And then we'll cut it in half or thirds. Let's do this one in thirds since I have two halves here already. If I were to cut this a little to the side of the middle and a little to the side of the middle over here, I end up with 1, 2, 3 different individual strands that can be used maybe around the face or in the bangs. It'll be a little more invisible when I heat it and roll it or fold it flat. The trouble is that a lot of people, when they go to cut these in half or thirds or fourths or whatever small customized piece, is they put the scissors in here and overlap the keratin bond too much, and the hair's a little off to the side, so when he cuts, it cuts all the hair off. So that's strands. Some people would come in from the bottom side, so they would say, you know what, if I start down here, if I can get my scissors through there, if I start down here and go through, there's no chance of me cutting the hair on either side. And that is true. It's just hard to kind of control if this is straight or not in there. So I like to hold it on this side, barely let the tip of the scissors go through. But if you're pulling the hair in exactly the same direction as the scissors, then you might snip a hair or two and not get them all as far as if it's a little to the left or a little right. So the scissors not overlapping very much, bring them back, and then just cut straight in line with the hair. That's one thing. And then tape-ins. You don't have to use the whole tape-in. Some people would fold that tape-in in half like this and tape it together on a client's head, and take that whole wide tape-in like that and fold it in half and tape it. But when you do this, they call it bookending. When you bookend, the side that folded is always going to be a little thicker than the side that is not. So I would say fold it like that, and then again do the same thing. Bring your scissors in like this, let it fold over the top of your scissors, and again, that hair needs to be going straight. The blade needs to not be going too far past there, so that when you do cut it, you've got no cut hairs. I say no, there might be one or two in the middle there. The goal is to minimize that, so then you have two smaller ones that you can then stick together, or cut it one more time in the center, hopefully, and put those two pieces together and have closer to a, I guess if we cut it twice, it's going to be a fourth of a bond, so of a tape-in. So 1.5 inches wide, in half is 3/4, and half again. Too much math for this hairdresser. I'm just going to say it's this size right here. And so then it would even kind of resemble a larger keratin bond. And then we get down to wefts. Can you cut your weft? Some of you guys can't cut your weft. Some of those hand-tied wefts today, if you cut it, it unravels. You need to know that ahead of time. You need to test it on a small sample or ask your manufacturer. I would say you're probably safer not to cut the hand-tied wefts. What most people do is when they put it in, they'll take that in, and if it's this much too long, they just fold it under or fold it up on top, and sew it down, and so this ends up a little thicker on the ends. I don't like that it ends up a little thicker on the ends because it's usually, the ends usually end up right here where you don't want it a little thicker. So I would say try not to fold it on the ends, dip it down in the back and make it run a little further. Have to travel further by going lower and traveling through this area so you can kind of end it there. But if you get the right wefts, whether it's machine made, a flat weft, you can literally take this weft just about anywhere. And look, I'm going in from the bottom side. You can go this way, but I think with a weft you have a little more control. It's a lot bigger, you can hold more. So if you go in from the bottom, and I'm not going to do it in this easy place, I'm going to go where there's quite a bit of hair, and just put it in from the bottom, cut straight up like that, and show you that ours do not unravel. That we have here on the table. Some do. You need to make sure what you have doesn't unravel. Most machine-made wefts and flat wefts don't unravel. So then I can put this in by gluing it right on the head, putting a little braid or some kind of track or some beads and sewing it to it. However you normally do it. That's the way you would customize a weft. Cut it up in as many small little pieces as you want, and I know there's other extensions out there that could potentially be customized. Just be careful on what part of it you cut and how. But this poor eye tip, they're beautiful when they go in. You just can't customize that little eye. In most cases, you could potentially cut it a little shorter because the danger there is when you put the bead on, a little sticking through the top of the bead might poke somebody in the head and it becomes uncomfortable. But the hair's beautiful, isn't it? So I still get why people like to use eye tips, but there's just so many other choices. Mix them all together, use what works for your client, and watch all my other videos. Subscribe, like, help me get out to more people so we can help more hairdressers. Bye guys.